Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Hope you're all doing well. I'm now going to be doing my previews for the divisional matchup of the NFL uh, season. The first matchup takes place in Baltimore as we have the Ravens, the number one seed, taking on the Houston Texans, the number four seed of the AFC. The Texans obviously coming off a very big win over the Cleveland Browns, getting their first postseason victory since the 2020 uh, wild card, and then they ended up losing to the Chiefs in the divisional matchup in that playoffs, and that was the last start for Deshaun Watson as a Houston Texan. So for the Texans, obviously, this is going to be a very huge game for a team that overachieved this year, not only making the postseason, making the divisional, um, being division champions, winning over a very stacked Cleveland Browns team. Now they're making a divisional appearance. Is a lot of overachieving accomplishments for this team, to say the least. The only time these two teams met in the postseason was in 2011, 2012. They met in the divisional round, kind of how they're doing exactly right now. And the Ravens won that contest 20-13. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was like Matt Schaub and Joe Flacco, respectively, as the quarterbacks for their teams. Now we're in the 2023/2024 era, and we have CJ Stroud, the rookie quarterback for the Houston Texans, taking on what has to undoubtedly be the MVP of the league in Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I'm going to take the Ravens in this matchup as I believe they should be able to get the victory over the Texans. After all, they beat the Texans in week one of the season, and I have a funny feeling they should be able to advance to the championship game. And this will be the first time in the Lamar Jackson era that this team would have gotten to the final two of the AFC championship game pedigree, I guess, if you want to call it that. So, yeah, I will take the Ravens in this particular matchup. All right, off to the other side of the AFC, where we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and they will be taking on the Buffalo Bills. So the Buffalo Bills being the number two seed, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, the number three seed. The Chiefs undoubtedly had a very huge victory over the Dolphins just last week. In the wild card round, the Bills had a bit of a they had their way with the Steelers, we'll put it that way. And both these teams are now meeting in the divisional round of this postseason. Before I get into this particular game and my predictions for this game, I just want to do a quick little recap of the team's histories of the postseason between the Chiefs and the Bills. They've met for the very first time back in 1966 in the AFL Championship game. The Chiefs won that game in Buffalo, 31-7. Um, En route to playing the very first Super Bowl against the Green Bay Packers that year. In 1991, they would meet in the divisional matchup, and the Buffalo Bills had the home field advantage, and that was their first of like four straight Super Bowls. So therefore, they did defeat the Chiefs 37-14. In 1993, they met in the championship games. The Bills won that game 30-13. The past two times these two teams met has been in this era with the Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Back in the 2020/2021 championship game, they met, and the Chiefs won that game 38-24. And in the 2021/2022 divisional matchup, the Chiefs won that game at home, 42-36. That was the overtime game, and the Bills that had to have been more crushing than the year before. Yes, the Bills were that so close to being in the Super Bowl the year prior to that, but in that particular matchup, in the divisional round, the Bills had a lead late in the fourth quarter, and that 13-second clock was always what stands out of that game. They're that close to defeating the Chiefs at Arrowhead, but Patrick Mahomes threw a bullet to Kelsey. They had enough time on the. They were close enough in field goal range to tie the game, and then they would end up winning the game in overtime, 42-36. So a very heartbreaking loss for the Bills, to say the least. So the Chiefs have a 3-2 edge in the postseason with these two teams going at it respectively. But I have a hunch that the Bills are finally going to be able to get a victory over the Chiefs and advance to the championship game. So I'll make my prediction right now, as I did previously, as I think it will be the Ravens and the Bills, respectively, for the AFC championship game. But then again, I could be 0-2 or I could be 1-1 by the time these two games are all set and done. All right, off to the NFC side of things, as we have the San Francisco 49ers, and they're taking on the Green Bay Packers. So I'll just have the team's logos up on the screen. And just like I did with the Bills and the Chiefs, I'll go over the playoff history for both of these teams. These two teams have never met in the postseason, right? This will be the 10th time in the NFL history that these two teams will be squaring off in the postseason. The San Francisco 49ers have a 5-4 edge coming into this matchup. And so I will go over all the games that these two teams have met in the postseason. Starting in 1995, they met in the divisional matchup. Green Bay went into San Francisco and won that game 27-17. The following year, yet again, a divisional matchup. Green Bay had the home field advantage and they would win 35-14. The year after that, they would meet in a championship game in 1997, and the Packers would win that game 23-20. So they had a 3-0 edge up until that point. The following season, they would meet in a wild card matchup. San Fran would finally get their revenge, defeating the Packers 30-27. 3 years after that, they would meet yet again in a wild card matchup, but the Packers would be the home team in this matchup, and they would get the better of the 49ers as they would defeat them 25-15. In 2012, that was when Kaepernick was the star of the show at that point for the 49ers. They would defeat the Packers in a blowout 45-31. That's when that's when Kaepernick not only threw the ball, but he ended up running wild in that game. I think he had quite a bit of yards on the ground, to say the least, in that particular matchup. They would win that one 45-31. The following postseason in a wild card matchup, they would meet in Green Bay. San Fran would get that victory 23-20. Advancing all the way to the 2019/2020 championship game, these two teams would meet in San Fran, and they would get the better of the Packers in that matchup 37-20. And then in the 2021/2022 divisional matchup, a very low scoring affair, it would take until late in that fourth quarter for the San Francisco 49ers to defeat the Green Bay Packers en route to the championship game. So like I said previously, the 49ers coming into this matchup have a 5-4 edge over the Green Bay Packers. And I'm going to give the edge to Brock Purdy. I have a funny feeling that he should be able to get this team over the hump. I mean, they did make the championship game just a season ago, and it wasn't by a fluke. And I believe they're just as good this year as they were last year. And now, obviously, they have the home field advantage throughout the postseason, heading into the Super Bowl. So, with that being said, I just think their defense is really well. Their offense is clicking. And when you have Brock Purdy, you got George Kittle, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Christian McCaffrey. Those are four very dangerous people on your offensive side of things. Not trying to disrespect Jordan Love and all of the guys he has on his crew, and Aaron Jones and all the receiving cores. But I mean, if you were to compare these two teams on paper, the 49ers would be, or do look like they are, the better team heading into this particular matchup. So with that being said, I believe the San Francisco 49ers will not only advance the championship game, but they will obviously host that game as well. All right, the last matchup takes place in Detroit, where we have the Lions, and they are playing host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think at the start of the season, everyone would have predicted that the Buccaneers and Lions would have met in the divisional matchup, correct? No? Okay. So you have Baker Mayfield got a huge victory last week over the Philadelphia Eagles, absolutely blowing the Eagles out of their own stadium to advance to the divisional matchup. And as for the Lions, getting their first postseason win over the Rams, and it was their first postseason victory in over 30 years. So it was well overdue for Lions fans and the team, respectively. So they're now playing their second straight home postseason game. The only time these two teams met in the postseason was back in the 1997 wildcard round, and the Buccaneers got the better of the Lions in that matchup. 20-10 was the final score in that one. So Tampa Bay has a 1-0 lead in their playoff series. Will Detroit be able to tie this series up at 1, or will Tampa take a 2-0 series lead? Any postseason action, only time will tell. But if I had to make my bold prediction right now, if God can play as well as he has been playing, I believe that the Detroit Lions, yes, I will say, will advance to the NFC Championship game to take on the San Francisco 49ers. I believe all four teams that are playing on the divisional matchup should be able to be victorious and advance to their respected championship games. All right. So as always, we'll see how I do by the end of Sunday. Will I be a perfect 4-0? Will I be 3-1? Will I be 2-2? Will I be 1-3? Will I just completely the bed and just be 0-4? Only time will tell, but we'll see, I guess, like I said, by the end of Sunday night. All right. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, please feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful, and I'd be very, very appreciative as well. And as always, take care.